The boundary is for how much shit you're going to deal with. A boundary without consequences is just a speed bump for narcissists. You see, you hear a lot of talk and you hear a lot of people on social media, on different platforms talking about boundaries. And they say so many times, like, you need to set a boundary, you need to have a boundary with the narcissist and all these type of things. But a lot of times they forget and they don't talk about the consequences. They don't talk about the idea of you set a boundary, and then that boundary is directly linked to a consequence. What happens when you're with a narcissist, whether you're with a toxic person, and you set a boundary and they break through it and there's no consequence, or the consequence is dissolved really, then they're going to keep doing that. And they're going to start realizing over a period of time that all your boundaries are just small challenges to be broken. With boundaries, you have to set boundaries with clear consequences. You see, a boundary for a narcissist is literally like a challenge. It's like you throwing the gauntlet out there and saying, hey, here's my line. Let's see if you're going to cross it. And so the narcissist is like, heck yeah, I'm going to try to cross it. Like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to see if I can break your boundary. And so the narcissist will work over a period of time to get to the point where they get close to breaking your boundary. They'll come right up to that line. They'll be right at the edge. Then they'll step over and step back. And they'll step over and step back. Then they'll just blow right through it. Because you didn't do anything. You didn't have a consequence. And so many times I talk to different people, and I remember one appointment I was talking to someone and they told me that they had a boundary, that if the narcissist cheated, that they were going to leave. And I was like, so did he cheat? And they were like, yes, he did. I was like, well, why are you still with him? Because they didn't follow through. They didn't have the consequence that accompanied the boundary. And as a result, the narcissist will keep blowing through boundaries just like their speed bumps, and they won't stop them at all. They'll just keep going. Now, with boundaries, it's really important that you specify what those boundaries are, and that you also have a consequence tied to it. Of, hey, we're not going to communicate like this. You're not going to rage at me right now. If so, I'm going to leave. I'm going to walk out the door, go to my parents, whatever it might be. I'm going to leave. Hey, if you cheat on me, we are no longer going to be together. So when that happens, it's nobody's fault. Like, the narcissist can't come back and blame you as far as like, hey, it's all your fault. No, I set this boundary. You broke this boundary. These are the consequences. So often people don't set consequences. They just throw out boundaries. They throw out boundaries like little fences all over the place, and the narcissist just drives right through them because they don't matter to the narcissist. That's why it's good to put boundaries there, because you want to see if they're going to go right through them, if they're going to try to break them. They're going to want to do that because it's all about them, and you're limiting them. You're holding them back. You're keeping them from being their true self or whatever. They want to break the boundaries. Boundaries are just like a challenge to them. Narcissists will break those boundaries, but then the second thing with that is narcissists want to get to the place where you break your boundaries, where you don't follow through, where you don't keep the consequences. You'll see this a lot of times in narcissism in relationships, and you'll see it in relationships longer in the relationship, as far as like when there's affairs, when there's things that pop out. Some of you have probably experienced, like, when you have a boundary with a narcissist, they'll start to bring someone else into that. They'll triangulate. They'll try to get you to the place where you'll break that boundary. Did you ever have your toxic person or your narcissist start to talk to you about threesomes? Yeah. That's because a lot of people say, hey, this is my boundary. I'm not going to do this. Narcissist is like, let me see if I can get them to do it. Let me see if I can manipulate both sides of the equation to get both people at the same time. Narcissists love to break boundaries, but they love it even more if you break your boundaries. Because then they know that they've got you, then they know that your boundaries don't matter, then they know that they have free game and they can do whatever they want. So with boundaries, set boundaries, have consequences. They have to go together. If you're just setting boundaries out there, then don't worry about it. Like, don't set boundaries if you're not going to have a consequence attached. If you're not going to have a consequence attached, forget setting boundaries. Let them do whatever they want. You have to set a boundary, and it has to be tied to a consequence. every single time, and you have to follow through with that. If you don't follow through, then your word doesn't mean anything. Your integrity doesn't mean anything. What you're doing doesn't mean anything, because otherwise they will continue to hammer you and come back and break that boundary time and time and time again. Now, there's an aspect that the boundaries are for the narcissist, to make sure that they're actually following through with their word, to make sure they're actually faithful, to keep them accountable, etc., etc. Boundaries are also for you. So for you in the relationship, the non-toxic person, the empath, the person that's loving, trying to make the relationship work, whatever it might be, the boundary sometimes is for you. You might ask, like, why do I need a boundary? No, the boundary is for how much shit you're going to deal with. The boundary is to show you, hey, there's a stopping point to this. But you see, otherwise, if you don't set a boundary, if you don't set a limit of how much crap you're going to tolerate, it will continue to raise over and over. This is why you have abusive relationships, toxic relationships that come back, it gets worse, they still stay with that person. That it gets worse, then they still stay with that person. And it continues to grow and grow and grow. And it's the same concept of throwing a frog in a pot of boiling water. It jumps right back out because it knows this is bad for you. It knows it's toxic. But you put it in and slowly turn up the heat, it'll eventually boil to death because it's getting used to the surroundings around it. In the relationship with the toxic person in your life, you get used to the surroundings around you. You get used to the rage. You get used to the yelling. You get used to the abuse, the emotional manipulation. You get used to all of that. And over a period of time, that seems normal. That's another reason why you set a boundary. You have a limit on how much you are going to take. You have a limit on how long this will go on. You have a limit of how far you are going to let someone pull you until you say, enough is enough. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to continue with this. You have to set clear, definitive boundaries, and those boundaries have to have clear consequences that you follow through. If you don't follow through with your consequences after the boundary's been broken, then that means for the narcissist, it's free game to break every single one of your boundaries because they don't matter and you're no threat to them. Make boundaries that have consequences that you follow through and stay true on. If you like what you see here, would love to interact with you more, subscribe to my channel. Go on to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, like our posts on there. Would love to have you guys check out just the different aspects we have. Please visit my website, rawmotivations.com. That's where people go if they want to schedule one-on-ones with me. If they want to talk through where they are in life, getting out of a toxic relationship, trying to figure out and just navigate the crazy life that comes with narcissism and the lies that get put around people that blind them, that distract them, that make them feel crazy at times. Like all those different things is things I work through with one-on-ones. It could be coaching on abuse, it could be life coaching, like a lot of different aspects kind of get tied together as we try to help people get to the next level, to the next step. I do talk with a couple people that are narcissists that say, hey, I think I'm a narcissist, like what do I do? I try to talk to them as well. Honestly, if you're a narcissist watching this and you want to talk to me, like I hope you actually want to talk or you want to change. Otherwise, you're just a waste of my time and I'm a waste of yours. If you're not willing to be honest, don't schedule. I'm not really interested in that. Would love to talk with anybody else. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for listening. Please rate the episode, give us some feedback, leave comments because we want to be able to continue to grow and how we convey this message of how we communicate about awareness, growth, and change out there. Thanks so much for watching.